Well, it's 40-man roster decision time. On today's show, we have more on Christian Walker's qualifying offer and who around MLB has and hasn't declined their qualifying offers. Also, Shaun Larkin has been promoted to the Diamondbacks third base coach. Got all this and more in 30 seconds. Don't you go anywhere. And welcome in to another edition of the D-Backs podcast right here in Studio K, presented by our friends at Circle K. My name is Derek Montilla, occasionally known as your mayor of PHNX. This man is occasionally known as my vice mayor, and your thunderstick, the one and only Jesse Friedman. Great to be back. I missed you guys. You, not so much. Damon, definitely not. Let's start this off. I have some grievances to address, and I want to start it off by talking to Damon, your favorite, everybody's little favorite, Damon. I've worked with this man.
He has a bit of a fan club. He really does.
I've worked with this man for over 2 years, and he reduced me down on yesterday's show to being pro wrestling and 90s music. That's essentially what my character was.
Hey, I threw your wardrobe in there too.
I mean, I appreciate that, and you should even know more about me, so you disgust me. But you, Damon, I mean, 90s music? I never even talked to him about 90s music. How dare you make me so one-dimensional? I'll also say, if I was wanting to do something back, I'm Damon. I buy my shirts on eBay for way too much from Arizona sports teams before I was born, and then I go in my office and scream about University of Arizona football until my neck bursts, veins burst in my neck. That's Damon. That's my.
And
best.
I root for losing teams all the time.
Yeah, I root for losing teams.
And then I'm mad at Kevin because his teams win.
Yeah, and then I don't show up because the Diamondbacks didn't make the playoffs. I just abandoned the show. Did I do everything?
So yeah, that was pretty accurate.
Okay,
but from your perspective, what did we miss about you?
Weed, first of all.
Okay.
Weed is like 90% of my personality.
Weed over you being a parent is crazy.
That's crazy. For parent and weed, you forgot those two things? Damon literally... never mind. I'm not going to make any accusations about him borrowing my weed pen and all that stuff. But we'll move on. I think I've addressed my grievances enough. I have some other grievances to address, and that, of course, is if Christian Walker does, in fact, Walker his way away from this team. And I'm not excited about that. We are pending Christian Walker's qualifying offer decision. We are seeing right now around Major League Baseball that some of that news is coming down, including Teoscar Hernandez declining the Dodgers qualifying offer, which I think was over $21 million. And Walker's decision needs to be made by 2 p.m. Arizona time today. So hopefully we'll have that information for you before the end of this program. If he hasn't rejected it already, he most likely will. And I think that's the conclusion we've come to. It's hard to come to any other conclusion at this point other than that. I mean, you could definitely cross your fingers and hope that he does accept it. However, I think that we're just waiting for the official confirmation that he's declined it.
Yeah, and to be clear, granted, I don't know this for sure, but my sense of the situation is that it is not as if Christian Walker is sitting at home right now, like coming down to the wire with this decision, trying to figure out what he's going to do.
Should I take it?
And he's
what should I do here?
Like he's sweating, like he is stressed out trying to figure this out. No, I think Christian Walker probably made this decision weeks ago at this point. At least not, he's probably not making the decision today. And it's just a matter of, the news actually making its way out into the public sphere, which understandably has not happened yet. So, I don't think that this is at least it does not seem like this would be a very hard decision for Christian Walker and his camp. We've said it from the beginning that we expect Walker to decline the qualifying offer. He is the type of player who should be able to get a multi-year deal on the open market fairly easily. and probably at a higher average annual value than the $21.05 million on this qualifying offer.
Correct.
Anyway. So there just isn't really a ton of reason for him to take it as far as we are aware.
Right. Not only is it most likely going to be a 3-year, maybe even longer deal, but you know, the annual value on it is going to be, as we suspect, higher than that. And I mean, right now, when you look across Major League Baseball, there isn't a lot of elite, you know, first baseman like Christian Walker available. And I mean, you could put Pete Alonso essentially in the same class.
It's those two.
So you have Pete Alonso, who once he signed, I mean, I almost feel like Pete Alonso probably isn't waiting to see how much Christian Walker is going to make. It's probably the other way around. And based on the kind of contract Pete Alonso receives, there's a good chance Christian Walker could get something similar, right? I mean, that's not that far out of the question.
Yeah, I think on an AAV basis, I think they're probably going to be somewhere in the same range. Pete Alonso is about 4 years younger, so I think he's going to get, you know, a 6-year deal, maybe something like that, whereas Walker's probably going to get a 3-year deal. But yeah, they're absolutely, in terms of just what you would pay for those guys for one season, I think they're in a pretty similar place.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and again, there are decisions like this being made all around the league, and those decisions are going to, of course, impact free agency and could impact the Arizona Diamondbacks beyond just Christian Walker leaving. We don't know, you know, how much money the Diamondbacks are going to have to spend this offseason, but we have an idea that, you know, there might be a few positions that they target and might be willing to, I guess, go above a little bit above, you know, to bring in a quality player. And first base is it, right? Like we've said it time and time again. The best replacement for Christian Walker is Christian Walker.
Yeah.
And the biggest problem there is that when you look at the available guys on the market, there are guys that are comparable. They're just older. And it's not guys really that you would look at and say they fit the timeline for this current Diamondbacks team as well as someone like Walker does, right? I mean, Walker just... he fits with the core of this team so perfectly. And again, that's the reason why he's so desirable as a free agent commodity out there on the open market.
Yeah, I mean, there are some first basemen that are out there in free agency that at one point in their careers, I think would be similarly valued to Christian Walker, maybe even valued more highly, right? Like Paul Goldschmidt would be one good example of that, right? Josh Bell, like a few years ago, I think was viewed quite differently than where he is right now. But yeah, as we said earlier, it's kind of Pete Alonso and Christian Walker as far as first baseman in free agency, and then it's everyone else. There's a pretty significant drop off after those two guys in my mind. So today is kind of a weird day in that the news that we get today is almost not news. Like, I know it just broke that Teoscar Hernandez declined his qualifying offer.
That wasn't really news.
Yeah, like none of the and it, you know, we're probably going to get an announcement in not very long here that Christian Walker also declined his qualifying offer. And that's not really going to be news either, because we kind of figured that all along. But it's just good to have news of any kind to talk about, Derek. So we still can get excited about these decisions being finalized, even though we kind of already know how they're going to play out.
Jesse's being way too honest there, but it's the truth, and you know what time of year it is. But it's also Rule 5 draft time, and we know that the Diamondbacks have a deadline today to add players to their 40-man roster. I believe that deadline is 4 p.m. local time. Is that right?
Yeah, 4 p.m. local time. Yeah, it's 6 p.m. Eastern to add players to the 40-man roster in order to protect them from the Rule 5 draft. Yeah.
And as it stands, there's a few guys on there that are in the Diamondbacks top 40 that might be susceptible there to being taken by another team. Now, in the past, we know that didn't necessarily work out for those teams because in the case of Davison De Los Santos, for instance, he was still kind of a little too far away from the major leagues for the Guardians to keep them on their 40-man roster for the entire season. So that's why he ended up coming back to this team, and he ended up playing an important part in another trade. So it's not necessarily that the Diamondbacks will lose these guys if they do get drafted in the Rule 5 draft, but there are a couple of candidates there that teams might be looking at and that the Diamondbacks might be in danger of losing. One of those guys is, once again, Christian Robinson, which is a name that a lot of Diamondbacks fans are familiar with, and we know that he has had a tumultuous time with this team. We also know, based on our descriptions from Arizona Fall League, that he looks great right now. He really looks like he's slimmed down. He looks much more athletic than we've seen him in the recent passed. So I think that, again, there's still some hope for Robinson's career. I just don't think that, again, he was someone who was already available at one point in the Rule 5 draft and didn't get drafted. And I think, again, he's probably safe as far as that's concerned, just due to those stipulations of what you have to do with those players should you take them in the Rule 5 draft.
Yeah, the caveat for people who don't know, if you select a player who is Rule 5 draft eligible in the Rule 5 draft, then they have to stay on your active roster for the entire following season. So yeah, like another team might love the idea of Christian Robinson as a prospect, maybe even more so than the Diamondbacks do.
For sure.
But the $1 million question is, are you willing to carry that player on your active roster for an entire season? And oftentimes the answer is no, right? And that's why we don't see a ton of action in the Rule 5 draft. Granted, last season, we did see Davison De Los Santos, a prospect who I think is maybe viewed somewhat similarly as Christian Robinson. He was selected in the Rule 5 draft by the Cleveland Guardians. The Diamondbacks chose not to protect him, and we kind of figured that he could be selected when the Rule 5 draft came around. Sure enough, he was. But then you see Davison De Los Santos go into camp with the Cleveland Guardians, and he was unable to make the team. And as a result, the Diamondbacks got him back. And thank goodness for that if you're a Diamondbacks fan, because he winds up being the centerpiece of a trade that nets you one of the best relievers in all of baseball in AJ Puck. So yeah, I think even if the Diamondbacks do have someone, they choose not to protect someone, and that player is claimed in the Rule 5 draft, it does not mean that the Diamondbacks are losing that prospect for good. The team has to be willing to carry the player on the active roster for the entire season, and that is not a small ask with some of these guys.
And there are some names on here, again, not just Christian Robinson, that a lot of Diamondbacks fans are familiar with. AJ Vukovich, he's a guy that is definitely a higher prospect on this list than some of the other potential Rule 5 draftees. And again, he's an outfielder now. I know he's kind of switched positions a little bit. The Diamondbacks,
they tried him in center field for some of 2024.
Yeah, so, I mean, they're trying things with him, and I don't know if if playing in the outfield is going to get him any closer to the major leagues with this franchise, but it might make him, a desirable candidate for another team. And if you're not, if you're willing to give a chance on a young guy, he might fit in your team, in your organization.
Yeah, Vukovich is one of those guys, still an interesting prospect. He was taken out of high school. He is relatively young. But again, is a team going to be willing to carry him on the active roster for an entire season? Based on the numbers Vukovich put up in AA, my guess is that the answer is no.
Right.
Three guys that do stand out to me here in terms of guys that I think other teams could want, that could be worth protecting. Tim Tawa, a utility guy who we talked about a little bit on the show, probably not as much as we should have. He put up really strong offensive numbers in both AA and AAA in 2024, and also played, I believe, every position except for catcher. I might be missing. Maybe he didn't play shortstop. I don't remember off the top of my head. But yeah, he is a player that teams do tend to target in these situations because he can play everywhere, and he has a decent offensive track record in the minors. You can talk yourself into him being a valuable player, even if you're not going to start him every day. So I could see Tim Tawa getting selected in Rule 5 if the Diamondbacks don't select him. If they're going to protect anyone today, he feels like maybe the most likely candidate for that.
Tim Tawa in 2024 played first base, second base, right field, left field, center field, and third base.
Okay, so no shortstop.
No shortstop.
And no catcher.
Wait, no. I'm mistaken.
Shortstop.
2 games at shortstop.
Okay.
He did also DH for 7 games, but no catcher. Yep. And,
what a slacker. What was he not able to? He just couldn't fit
pitch.
that in his schedule, or what?
He
didn't pitch either.
Not in one game. He didn't pitch at all.
Yeah. So Tim Tawa, I could see the Diamondbacks wanting to protect him. Christian Robinson is another name. I could see a team maybe selecting him. Would he make it through spring training and make the roster? I'm a little skeptical, but not impossible.
Yeah.
Kyle Backus is the other name that stands out here for me. He's a left-handed reliever that I really liked in spring training. He looked really good at times, was hurt for much of the 2024 season, but did put up pretty good numbers when he was healthy. He's a solid depth option as a left-handed reliever. Again, would a team be willing to carry him for an entire season? I'm not totally sure, but I could see a team maybe wanting to give that a shot. So he's someone I think the Diamondbacks would risk losing on some level if they don't protect him today.
Tristan English is another guy who's interesting. His numbers weren't great in 2024 with Reno. He slashed 263, 326, 424 with a 750 OPS. But he's a first baseman in AAA. And the honest to God truth about English is that he might be an option for the Diamondbacks at first base, at least if they don't find some other viable option this year and their depth kind of runs a little, they don't have much depth over there. So it's not necessarily a guy that might be super attractive to other teams, because if you're not hitting 300 in Reno, you're probably not doing well. But again, it's a matter of the importance to the Diamondbacks that he might potentially have.
I think, and I would love to talk with some front office people more to kind of get their sense of how they make these decisions. But my sense is that if you're a team looking at options in the Rule 5 draft, you're either targeting someone who you feel has a high ceiling, like a prospect that maybe you have to kind of gut through a season where they're maybe not major league ready, but you can talk them into being a really great player down the road, and you'd love to have a chance to have that player with you in the long term. That would be the case for a Christian Robinson, I think. Like maybe it's a stretch right now, but maybe he's a star in a few years. Or I think they're looking for a high floor. So someone like Tim Tawa, where you feel like he can be a contributor. He can hold his own offensively, and he can play a whole bunch of positions. It's not all that hard to imagine him being useful, even if he's not going to be a star level player someday. But if a player doesn't really fall in either of those categories, then I think it's a bit of a harder sell to want to take them in Rule 5.
Garrett Stubbs does less for the Phillies than Tim Tawa could do for this team. I'm just saying. And if you need somebody to take somebody out, Tim's your guy. I'm just saying. I'm not questioning his past. I'm just saying he might be that guy. No, I mean, and there's a couple of other names on this list. Of course, Caleb Roberts and Christian Serta. You also have Austin Pope. So I mean, there's guys that are rule draft eligible that the Diamondbacks. I mean, you've seen these names for a few years. Some of them have kind of gone up and down as far as being a top prospect within the organization, but. Really, that caveat about keeping them on the major league roster for the whole year, that's what really impacts it the most. So the Diamondbacks do have space on their 40-man roster right now for them to protect a few of these guys. It just depends on if they feel that there's that need to do so.
Serta is an interesting name. I want to touch on him just quickly because he is the only member of the Diamondbacks top 30 on MLB Pipeline, their top 30 prospects list, who is Rule 5 draft eligible. My guess is that Serta probably doesn't need to be protected because he hasn't played above high A. And it's a little tough to carry a guy who hasn't played a game above high A in the majors for an entire season. The Diamondbacks did try it. If memory serves, Oscar Hernandez, is that the right name, Derek? Am I remembering this correctly? A catcher that I believe the Diamondbacks claimed in the Rule 5 draft a number of years ago.
I haven't heard that name in 84 years.
Let me double check my thinking here. It looks like I'm right. This was 2015. The Diamondbacks had Oscar Hernandez on their roster, and he's someone that they claimed in Rule 5, and he had not played above single A, I believe, when they claimed him, but it didn't really work out. He didn't really wind up panning out in the majors, and he looked a little bit overmatched offensively. So claiming a guy from who has not played even in Double A is pretty tough.
Gabriel Ferrer in the chat says the last decent Rule 5 guy was Garrett Whitlock, and he wasn't that great either. Yeah, I mean, it's hard. It's hard to find those guys because essentially it's that perfect combination of not being worth enough to one franchise to keep them on their roster at all, and yet that player is worth enough to another major league franchise that they would draft them and keep them on their roster the whole year. Usually the teams are just better about scouting talent than that, and they're not necessarily willing to lose a guy that they think could be major league ready by next season. And like I said, even with the case of like Tristan English, like he's not ready, but he's at the AAA level. And as far as the Diamondbacks are concerned, he's a guy that they might need for depth. Again, we have no idea how this offseason is going to go for this team and what they're going to be able to do to solve that first base problem should Christian Walker decline his qualifying offer and become a free agent and eventually sign with another team. He might be needed, but again, that's that choice that another team would have to make in order to add them to his roster. So that's where we're at. Also interesting to see like what the Diamondbacks might do, right? I mean,
like if they would claim anyone in Rule 5. Yeah, at this point, I'd be pretty surprised if they claimed anyone. The Diamondbacks are in a phase right now where they're trying to contend, and it's tough to carry, if a player is left unprotected, that means that there's at least some level of skepticism on the part of the other team that player is going to be a valuable asset in the majors. I don't really think the Diamondbacks are in a position right now to carry someone like that. If they did, it would probably be a reliever who just like throws 117 miles an hour or something. And you're like, we can find a way to harness this into being a valuable player for us. But that is easier said than done for sure.
I still to this day cannot believe that one Ryan Thompson was signed to a minor league contract. Was he not, Jesse, during the middle of the season, right? Every once in a while you do find a diamond in the rough. And, Ryan Thompson is absolutely one of those. He's not Rule 5 draft guy, but he's just a great example of how you could be discarded by another franchise and then picked up to essentially a minor league deal and immediately make an impact the way that he did.
Yeah.
So, we do have more. Of course, this isn't all. We have a packed show today. The Diamondbacks have hired a new third base coach, or I guess hired might be the wrong word. Promoted is the real word that we're looking for.
I don't even know if promoted is really the right word either.
There's just a new role for a guy already in the organization.
I mean, it's not a demotion for sure.
No, it's not one of those either.
It's so different that I can't even really describe it as like a move up or Anyway.
If that's not a tease, I don't know what is, but you stick around on the other side of this commercial break. We'll be right back. Of course, if you are in the market right now for a new vehicle, make sure you check out Sanderson Ford. They are our official vehicle partner, and they have a Black Friday sales event for you right now. They've started it already. They're not waiting until Black Friday because it's a big thank you to you, their customers. Of course, they are very, very happy to be one of the biggest Ford dealerships in the entire nation, and they're very thankful to have lived and prospered for the past 70 years in Glendale, Arizona. They're also thankful for their 500 employees who take care of their customers, making Sanderson Ford America's most awarded Ford dealership for customer satisfaction, and they're most thankful for you, of course, their customers. For without your support, they couldn't give back to our community with so many of their charity events like upcoming Operation Santa Claus and so much more. So right now, they're saying thank you with their Black Friday thank you sale event for the entire month of November, not just on one day, but great offers throughout the entire month, including on new 2024 F-150 trucks where you can get 3.9% APR financing for 66 months, plus up to $4,000 cash back. Similar savings on over 900 new and pre-owned vehicles on the lot. So don't miss the Sanderson Ford Black Friday Thank You Sale event. OAC through Ford Credit up to $4,000 cash back requires trade-in of a 95 or newer vehicle. Offer expires November 30th. When you get that new vehicle, stop by Circle K. It's America's thirst stop. Don't spill anything in it. That's the most important part. But get yourself a drink, fill up your brand new vehicle with gas, and of course you can save some money if you join the Inner Circle program for free by downloading the Circle K app today. Terms and conditions apply at participating locations. Visit circlek.com for details. When you join their membership program, you'll save 25 cents per gallon on your first 5 fill-ups, as well as save 3 cents per gallon every day after that. You will also get your first 5 Polar Pops for absolutely free, and you'll get a buy 5, get a 6th one free on a selection of Circle K products. So join the Inner Circle today, and of course, save yourself some money at America's Thirst Stop. Well, the Diamondbacks do have a brand new third base coach, which is exciting, and it is someone, like we said earlier, from within the organization. D-backs have made farm director Shaun Larkin their new third base coach. Larkin has had a great relationship with Torey Lobello and has been, somewhat instrumental in the Diamondbacks kind of rebounding their farm system from what it was at one point, where things looked very bleak for this team prior to Mike Hazen being the general manager. So credit to Larkin for getting the Diamondbacks back to where they needed to be as far as their farm system goes. And And now here he is taking on a new role with the major league roster.
Yeah, this is again, this is just such a different role from what Shaun Larkin was doing previously. He's going from being the manager of the Diamondbacks' entire minor league system, constantly traveling between, Reno, Amarillo, Visalia, Hillsborough, all these different places. I got to talk to him a lot throughout the season. If you've been keeping up with my written work over at gophnx.com, we did a prospect report for all of our diehards every month. So I would talk with Shaun and bug him constantly.
Yeah. And he's been tremendous about letting Jesse bug him.
He has been tremendous
awesome.
about letting me bug him. So in that sense, I'm sad to see Shaun removed from this role. But it sounds like this really came down to just sort of his personal preference and a desire to get back on the field, which is just a very different role from what he was doing before. You mentioned his relationship with Torey Lovullo. Larkin played 6 years in the minor leagues in the Cleveland Indians minor league system.
That's right.
And Torey Lovullo was his manager for 4 of those years. So now they're working together, Derek. So it should be fun to see.
How's his arm? How's this motion? You got a pretty good rotator cuff.
That's a good point, because he's gonna have to like run drills with guys and whatnot. Like he's not just showing up at the park as an observer and someone for minor league guys to bounce ideas off of and whatnot. He's gonna have to get in there a little bit more.
I mean, that's an interesting thing, considering he doesn't really come right now from a coaching world, right? And it doesn't mean he doesn't have leadership skills or the ability to coach. He just doesn't really do that right now as part of his job. It's more of like decision making and observing the talent and trying to help the organization understand where certain guys are at and help those guys achieve what they're trying to achieve as well.
Yeah. Another thing was interesting that came out on this in Nick Picoro's story over at the Arizona Republic. He reported that Larkin was a finalist for a high-ranking front office job with the St. Louis Cardinals within the last month, and Larkin ultimately did not wind up going to the Cardinals, obviously. And it sounds like that decision was made before Tony Perez-Chica left. So it's not like he wound up not going to St. Louis because he was already going to be the Diamondbacks' third base coach. This is something that was decided after the fact. But now they've got a new guy running the farm system, and the Diamondbacks continue to embrace the youth movement here, Derek.
They really do.
Chris Slivka, their new farm director, is just 31 years old.
He has more to talk about with you than he does with me, and that was already the case with Shaun Larkin, but that's definitely the case with a 31-year-old Jesse. But that's interesting. And again, I don't get scared away by the idea of a young person being knowledgeable and taking over a role like this.
Sure.
Obviously, on this show, one young person does the driving here. We all know that. But in the case of Slivka, he has a 9-year career in the Diamondbacks organization, so he's not a new face, and he is somebody essentially, I imagine, that has been, I won't say groomed for this role, but to a degree, probably is, has kind of always been seen a little bit there as a good, next up for this role. And I'll also say, there's a connection there, right? I mean, you're dealing with younger players. You have the ability essentially to assess talent as a farm director. He was the assistant farm director last year. So I think that there's a lot of positives there. And I think that the youth there is one of them, honestly.
Yeah, the Diamondbacks they're kind of embracing the youth movement, not across the board, but they do have several high-ranking front office officials who are pretty young. I wrote a feature story at one point about Ian Rebin, who, at least when I wrote the story, was the youngest director of amateur scouting in all of baseball. I imagine that's still the case. I want to say he's in his upper 20s at this point. And then, Chris Slivka at 31 is the farm director. That's a really, really big job. And then someone I talked to just a few days ago for my story on Yu Min Lin, Peter Wardell. He is the Diamondbacks director of international scouting, another very big job. And he, I believe, is 34 years old. They're letting the kids run the whole thing, Derek.
They're pushing us older folks out. I see how it is. No, but I mean, honestly, it's smart because, again, there's a time where, especially like you look at the replacement of Brent Strom, right? And there's nothing wrong. I still respect Brent Strom a tremendous amount, but I'm glad that the direction that they went in was a completely different direction rather than essentially, and again, no disrespect to the man, but bringing in another older pitching coach that has years and years of experience. Like, don't replace Brent Strom with Brent Strom if that's what you're going to do. Go in a different direction and bring in somebody like this. Now, again, Larkin, I think, has been an incredible part of the organization for his entire time here. And that high-ranking front office job, that just makes it a little bit, it makes you feel a little bit more excited about keeping him in the organization because we've already lost some really good front office executives to other teams, right?
Yeah, and I didn't even think about Brian Kaplan, their new pitching coach, who is, I believe, 32 years old.
Yeah.
So yeah, it is a youth movement across the board almost. But yeah, you're absolutely right. When it comes to replacing a guy as legendary as Brent Strom, someone who has that kind of reputation, it would be odd to hire someone who has a similar background, who's in a similar stage in their career. Brian Kaplan was very much a different type of hire for this team.
If you're going to try something new, try something new, right? And of course, maybe part of it is listening to their pitching staff as to what kind of pitching coach they wanted. Who knows? I mean, I don't really know the reason to go different direction than Brent Strom, but we already talked about the numbers, and the numbers definitely supported going in that way. Shaun Larkin, the one thing that I think people want to know about third base coach, though, is again, how is his stop sign? How is his go sign? How well is he going to be able to judge that stuff now, as a coach on the field versus, not really ever doing it? At least he's a player, right? Or former player.
Yeah, former player. And yeah, I don't want to make it sound like he's just been, working an office job for the last 2 decades or anything. No. He was a field coordinator with the Dodgers for several years, which is a much different job than being the farm director. The field coordinator of a minor league system is on the field, is responsible for helping run drills and whatnot, is my understanding. So it's not like this is going to be something completely new for him. But you're right. The third base coach job does come with a certain amount of scrutiny. It's not quite the same amount of scrutiny as like an umpire where you're only noticed when you get things wrong, but it's not that far from that.
Yeah, it's very similar. You are only noticed as a third base coach when you got something wrong. Rarely was I sitting there going, good job, Paris Chica. Way to send him right. Like, that didn't happen. That rarely happened. Right, you're screaming at your TV when he stopped him or when he sent him and he gets out at home, but you don't care otherwise. Or you're at least crediting the player for rounding the bases rather than the third base coach. But of course, again, it's just it's good news that the Diamondbacks have this coach in place. It's not like this. It's not like he's going to have the same kind of impact, I don't believe, that like a pitching coach would have potentially on their decisions that they make this offseason. But still, we knew that the Diamondbacks had to kind of fill these coaching roles prior to them addressing their needs with position players and pitchers and who they might be going after in free agency.
Yeah, and also real quick on Larkin, he has had coaching jobs in the past during his time with the Cleveland Guardians organization and the Los Angeles Dodgers organization as well. So I don't have in front of me exactly what coaching roles he had, but again, this is just him sort of wanting his future to take a bit of a different path, and it'll be. I'll get to bug him on a daily basis at the ballpark rather than just doing it over the phone. So I'm looking forward to that.
Well, and there is something to be said about, he does have a little bit of a relationship with the younger guys based on his involvement in the farm and things like that.
Yeah.
So
yeah, that is very true.
He's very familiar with some of these guys that are on the team. I mean, I'm sure he's familiar with the whole team, but he's very familiar with the young guys on this team. And again, that's one step. At least that's one positive versus bringing in a coach completely from outside of the organization that would kind of have to update themselves on everything with these guys. So again, congratulations to Larkin. Congratulations to Torrey for filling that role in his staff, and congratulations to him. I wasn't here yesterday on the big win in Buffalo. It was great to see him out there. Again, I completely agree with every word these two men said. I don't understand his snowbird schedule, but it is definitely broken and wrong. But anyway,
I stuck up for Tori after the show a little bit. Me and Jesse were talking, and while it doesn't make sense from a snowbird schedule perspective, it makes sense from a sports perspective.
Yeah.
That game was kind of once in every 5 years, maybe even longer, kind of a situation. You know, undefeated team 10 weeks in. You know, on the road.
I'm fairly
two of the
certain
greatest quarterbacks of their generation.
I'm fairly certain Tori has a house in Buffalo, from my understanding,
Yes, I
from
believe he
conversations we've had with
Yeah.
him. So that all lined up tremendously. And I was too angry at Damon earlier, but that's my guy, large intimate, Kevin Thomas on the ones and twos. And I always appreciate his input. He had puppy dog eyes there for a minute when we brought up Larkin going to his St. Louis Cardinals. I just had to throw that out there. His St. Louis Cardinals. Anyway,
Mine.
I have to do everything I can to, make sure everybody knows about your allegiances.
Yeah, it's kind of like I know Yoshi does this with the Mets, but like anytime they get mentioned, it's like Mets mentioned. I feel the same way about my Cardinals. You know,
Yeah, I get it.
when Jesse said that, I was like, oh, Cardinals mentioned. Oh,
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I did know. Kevin definitely perked up when we said.
And then
that,
he just kind of slumped back down in his seat when essentially
Yeah.
the news was that this, coach isn't going to his team. So it is what it is. But we also have, of course, some very exciting awards that were given out. Major League Baseball Rookie of the Year, something that has not happened essentially in 43 years. And I know that because the last time it happened was the year I was born. So it's obviously a very long time if that's the case, because as you know, I'm very old. So we will talk about that on the other side of this break. Please don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. Whatever the moment is, it's never ordinary at Bet365. Of course, Bet365 makes sports more fun. We know that. And it offers the widest range of games and markets available for live in-game betting across 78 sports. And they pioneered live in-game betting. So see for yourself all the fun that you can have over at Bet365. Download the Bet365 app right now and use our code of PHNX365 when you sign up and place a bet of $5 or more, and you will receive $150 in bonus bets. Find out why whatever the moment is never ordinary at Bet365. Must be 21 or over and physically located in Arizona. If you or someone you know has a gambling problem and wants help, call 1-800-NEXT-STEP, text NEXT-STEP to 53342, or visit problemgambling.az.gov. All right. Well, of course, for more than 84 years, Desert Financial has been Arizona's largest, most trusted local credit union, dedicated to creating exceptional experiences by giving back to the community and providing financial solutions that help make all of our lives better. I got my home ownership journey started thanks to the fine folks at Desert Financial. Hopefully, they can get you started as well. The Desert Financial team are financial experts who are committed to giving back to their members and the community, offering financial solutions tailored to help real people achieve their financial goals and dreams. And yes, Desert Financial is around so long that I guess we probably were both around in the same amount of time, and neither one of us can be a member of the Diamondbacks coaching staff because we're all too old. But Desert Financial knows money. They know numbers, that's for sure.
The cutoff is 35.
Yes, correct. I get it now.
Torey Lavello better
Get himself a younger credit union, that's for sure. But you shouldn't, because you need to make sure that you go with someone that you can trust. You can look to Desert Financial for checking and savings accounts, mortgages, loans, credit cards, investment options, and so much more. Join a credit union that is committed to giving back to the community and sharing success with their members. When you open a free checking account online, get $200 in bonuses. Get started by visiting desertfinancial.com/200.
RA just made a crazy comment in the chat.
RA said, if
I
it
don't know
makes
if
you
you want to
feel better,
acknowledge
there
that,
are
but-
people older than you. Not many, but at least you have that. I'll disagree. There's a lot of people that are older than me. Have you not seen the boomers? They're sticking around. They're not going anywhere. But yes, I wasn't born yet. I wish I wasn't born yet. It was the year I was born. It was 1981. And it was the very last time that a pair of starting pitchers won both the AL and NL Rookie of the Year. So hats off to these guys. Paul Skenes, Luis Gil, both of them had an amazing season. And of course, the last time that was done was by a pair of guys named Fernando Valenzuela and Dave Righetti in 1981.
Wow. Yeah. Yeah. Luis Gil was interesting to me. I did not really expect him to win in the American League. I figured it would probably be Colton Cowser. That's not how things turned out. But I did have a vote in the NL Rookie of the Year situation this year, and I can now reveal that ballot, Derek. I know people have been dying to hear this information.
Why did we tease this off the top? I didn't know you were just gonna blurt this information out publicly.
Well, I did tweet it out yesterday, so this isn't the first time it's been revealed. But yes, my ballot was very boring. It was exactly the way that the results turned out. Paul Skenes, I had number 1. Jackson Merrill, I had number 2. And Jackson Churio, I had number 3. I figured that maybe Merrill would get a little bit more support than he did. I think it was 7 of the 30 voters had Merrill in first place, and 23 out of the 30 were like me and had Skenes in first place. Can definitely understand the argument going both ways.
Yeah,
but
for sure.
For me, Paul Skenes had a 1.96 ERA, and it was sort of like, end of story. I mean, a 1.96 ERA is ridiculous, right? I know he didn't pitch a full 200 innings.
I don't care.
But he
He's
also
11-3, 133 innings.
Yeah, 133 was enough for me where that was just too. I could not bring myself to vote for anyone else given how incredible Skenes' run prevention was this year.
I think when you look at Jackson Merrill's line and his contributions for the Padres, like you can't help but consider him because of the value to the team and how he helped the Padres make the playoffs and make that push in the playoffs, right? You're talking about a guy that slashed 292, 326, 500 as a rookie with 24 home runs, 90 RBI, and a 127 OPS plus. Like, that's bonkers,
really
right?
Good season.
But yeah, like rarely does a player in baseball, because of the nature of the game, live up to the hype the way that Paul Skenes has. And it was wonderful to see. He took over the Major League Baseball world. He had himself a very, like, immediately just became like a king of the baseball world with his queen at his side. And everybody wanted to know everything they were doing. Like, it went beyond the game. They were basically the closest that we'll ever get to, Kelsey and Taylor Swift, I guess. That's probably, the best we can do in the baseball world. But it's still pretty good.
It's pretty good.
It's pretty good.
Matt Kemp and Rihanna in 2010 was
okay. No, yeah, you're right.
You're really
right.
close.
That was pretty close.
That
might even be better.
That's a Dodger. I mean, we're pretty much talking about.
I just did the thing again. I outed myself.
Well, no, I'm saying Kelsey's a Chief, and at the end of the day, historically, that's not a great franchise.
Sure.
The current iteration has made them relevant historically.
Sure.
But if we're talking, levels,
I mean, there are levels to this.
They're up there
for sure,
in the
for
conversation.
Sure. But I mean, again, it's when you talk about just what both of these guys did for the franchises, Paul Skenes, kind of gave a new life to a Pittsburgh Pirates franchise that had a fun start this season, but then kind of like just drifted off. And I will say that there's just so much hope for the future. That pitching staff looks very bright. He is going to be the ace of that staff for years to come, I'm sure. And Brent Strom will be there helping him achieve all of his goals and dreams, much like Desert Financial helps you. But I will say this: I don't know. I could like I said, going back to the Jackson Merrill argument. There is the idea of like an MVP, where how much did you contribute to a team that ended up going on to do big things? So it's hard to argue against Jackson Merrill in the same way it would have been hard to argue against Corbin Carroll last year with the Diamondbacks. And I know that decision's made, kind of right. That's made before the playoff run, so you don't have the playoffs necessarily impact your voting when it comes to that. But when all was said and done, it was hard to deny, Corbin Carroll's not only amazing rookie year, but his importance to the Diamondbacks last year.
Yeah, I mean, the decision is made before the playoffs, but it's made after the regular season. So it's not like where the team finished in the standings is completely irrelevant to the situation. And yeah, I think I factored that in on some level. Like, it did feel down the stretch like every single day the Padres would be down by a run in the 8th inning, and Jackson Merrill would hit a go-ahead 2-run home run, and it was outrageous.
Every single time.
It was outrageous. The number of big moments for that guy in his rookie season was unbelievable. I mean, he also basically learned how to play center field. He didn't really have any experience there, and was not just serviceable, but was one of the best center fielders in all of baseball. So, I think 90+% of the time you put up the numbers that Jackson Merrill put up and you win the Rookie of the Year. And it might not even be close. But when you have a guy in Paul Skenes who comes out and has a sub-2 ERA, it's like, yeah, that's fair. You might have some trouble in a season like that. And for me, it was still close though. I was still having this debate in my head up until the final weeks of the season. I know there was a point where Jackson Merrill, his wins above replacement numbers were actually pacing quite a bit better than Paul Skenes.
Sure.
But by the end of the season, those numbers were pretty similar. Skenes finished at 5.9 BWAR to Merrill's 4.4. Merrill did have the edge in Fangraphs WAR, 5.3 to 4.3.
Stupid websites.
So that was sort of a wash. One number that I looked at is win probability added, which is just sort of totaling up throughout the season. Like, how much did you contribute to your team's chances of winning throughout the year? And for Paul Skenes, that was 3.69 compared to 2.44. For Jackson Merrill. And I'm not going to say my decision came down to that solely, but that was a factor for me for sure. That's a pretty significant difference.
Well, yeah, and a starting pitcher does add, I think, to that win probability more than a position player is going to, even in a smaller sample size than what, Jackson Merrill played.
Yeah.
However, again, Paul Skenes, what he did going 11-3 for that Pirates team is impressive, considering that they weren't a very good team this year. And it just shows his dominance. I think also him and Heel both winning it this year just shows, like, 43 years since the last time two starting pitchers won the Rookie of the Year. It's not easy to come up and be a starting pitcher in Major League Baseball and find that success, right? And when you look at Paul Skenes' 1.96 ERA and his 0.95 WHIP, it's hard to deny that he immediately was a stud, an ace in Major League Baseball upon entering it in as a minor league player. So it's hard to deny how good he truly is.
I mean, he started the All-Star game, and I don't view that as a fluke. Like, I mean, I know you could make the case he didn't have as many innings as Chris Sale or whatnot at the time.
Could also make the case that Torey Lovullo absolutely adored him.
That is also,
and was doing it for recruitment reasons. But that dream's falling apart.
I don't think that. I don't think that
Brent
worked out.
Strom has gone
Brent
over
Strom
there.
wound up leaving for Paul Skenes. But another interesting question here is, how would we compare Corbin Carroll from 2023 with Paul Skenes this year? The Merrill Skenes debate, fairly close. I think it was, at least for me, I felt pretty confident in my decision. But if I had to choose between Corbin Carroll from last year and Paul Skenes this year,
let's go back to that win probability average thing.
You're speaking my language here, Derek.
Well, let's do that.
So Corbin Carroll in 2023. You look at wins above replacement numbers. He and Paul Skenes very, very similar. But you look at that win probability added number that I referenced earlier, and Corbin was at 5.19 compared to 3.69 for Skenes, which again is a pretty decisive advantage. I also think that Corbin made some history in the scene, and I know Skenes did as well. But Corbin also had that narrative going for him in that he was the first rookie in AL/NL history to have 25 homers and 50 stolen bases. So I think I would lean Corbin Carroll if I had to make that decision. But it's an interesting question, and I would be fascinated to know how a vote like that would have panned out if it had happened that way.
It's also amazing how close Jackson Merrill and Corbin Carroll's numbers from these two past seasons are. But again, you look at Corbin Carroll's numbers and they just slightly edge out, Merrill in a couple of categories. RBI, Merrill has the edge. But I mean, for the most part, you look at Corbin Carroll getting 54 stolen bases in his rookie year. That's just insane. And
Merrill hit lower in the lineup for the Padres, which is kind of bizarre to me. They were hitting him like 6th or 7th late into the season, whereas Corbin was near the top, so not as many RBI opportunities. But Corbin had a higher OPS plus this last year than Merrill did this year. And, Merrill did steal 16 bases, but Corbin stole 54. So I think the debate between those two guys is pretty clear, but the debate between Skenes and Corbin is pretty fascinating.
Well, of course, we have a little bit more to discuss when it comes to the Arizona Diamondbacks, including Yu Min Lin and his performance in the Premier 12 tournament, as well as the Diamondbacks having an official grand opening for a new academy in the Dominican Republic on a block where every major league team has an academy for the Dominican Republic. It's actually quite adorable. But we will get to all that on the other side of this break. We thank you guys so much for being here. Don't you go anywhere. We'll be right back. Well, it is almost holiday shopping season, and our friends at Shady Rays have you covered with premium polarized shades that won't break the bank and make an excellent gift for that special someone in your life. Shady Rays is an independent sunglass company that offers a world-class product rated 5 stars by over 300,000 people. And they have tons of styles to choose from. You're bound to find the perfect pair for you, for yourself, for your family, your loved ones, whoever you're buying for this holiday season. And of course, they have them available in your favorite team's colors, as well as some premium polarized shades and their new Color Rush shades, which of course are amazing. My wife has a pair of those, and they make everything bright and colorful and amazing while still giving you the shade you're looking for from polarized sunglasses. If you don't love your shades, you can exchange them for a new pair or return them worry-free within 30 days. There's no risk at all when you shop. Their team always has your back with personal and fast support. Exclusively for our listeners, Shady Rays is giving out their best deal of the season. Head to shadyrays.com and use code PHNX for 35% off polarized sunglasses. Try for yourself the shades rated 5 stars by over 300,000 people. Also, got to check out Saturday Neon, especially once again, if you're looking for a special gift for that special person in your life. Saturday Neon was started by 2 college friends, and they make officially licensed collegiate logo LED neon signs, perfect for your home, office, fan cave, or wherever you're looking to make a space look amazing. Unlike traditional neon, these LED signs won't break or shatter, but you'll still get that classic uniform glow that you know and love from neon. LEDs that last up to 100,000 hours. Of course, none of that gas involved, just LED lights. You'll be enjoying your sign for years to come. And PHNX has used Saturday Neon to get our studio signs looking great. And of course, we love them so much. So use code PHNX for 10% off your order over at SaturdayNeon.com. All right, Jesse. Well, we know that the Arizona Diamondbacks, of course, are, yes, sir.
Yeah, hold on. Not to cut you off, Derek, not to
What?
mess with your mojo, but we do have a cool event to promote, Derek.
Oh, we do?
We have one more thing to promote.
That is,
And if
we've been
love,
keeping a tight wrap on this one, haven't we?
Yeah, we have, but it's time to let it loose. Because if you love Archie Bradley, you're going to love this, right? We got Archie Bradley Q&A live at the Gila River Resort and Casinos.
Go.
Derek, take it away from me. I'm going to drop the link in the chat for all
Well,
our
I'll tell you, we already do this with our diehards on Ask Archie. So if you are a diehard, you're already familiar with this format and the amazing answers that Archie Bradley gives whenever you ask him a question. This man does not hold back, and he will definitely not hold back live at Gila River Resorts and Casinos. Once we get a few drinks in them and we get those questions flowing, we're going to have a great time. So make sure to join us for that. This is an event that is free for diehards, and I believe there's a $5 cover charge for non-diehards. So this is not a diehard only event. Those of you that are not diehards can join us. But once again, another reason to join the family. So check out all the benefits over at gophnx.com. Become a diehard today.
Yeah, Derek's right. $5 tickets for non-diehards. It's free for diehards. It's exclusive, though, so it's not going to be recorded. So if you do want a chance to ask Archie a question, make sure you show up, because there's not going to be another chance for this specific event.
And I know we kind of abuse it, because Archie's a wonderful human being that never says no to any questions we answer, but ask him. But I mean, as a diehard, you really do get a very special opportunity to ask someone like Archie questions on Ask Archie. If you haven't checked that out, we have 3 episodes that have dropped, so make sure to do so. But again, also to do it live and to have him look you in the eye, Elizabeth, while he's answering your questions, I think that's the route to go. So make sure to join us for that. That is happening on December 4th.
Yes.
So make sure to join us out there at Gila River Resorts and Casinos. That is at Wild Horse Pass. So make sure to get, of course, your event ticket. If you're a diehard, I believe you just got to go on, log on, and you'll be added to the list. And again, if you are a non-diehard, you want to join us, make sure to do so.
Scan that QR code right there.
There's the QR code.
Get that QR code on your phone.
I'm usually watching the show on my phone, so scanning a QR code, a little difficult. I understand it, but we'll make sure we get you all the information.
It's true. I've always really struggled with that.
Yeah, when they want you to scan the QR code while you're on your phone.
Am I supposed to do it with my eyes? Like, how does this work?
One day soon.
Yeah,
soon.
that's
Once
true. I need one of those VR headsets or whatever it is.
For sure.
Yeah.
Well, the Diamondbacks, like we said, they have their grand opening for their new academy in the Dominican Republic. This isn't new for the Diamondbacks to have an academy in the Dominican Republic. This is just a new and improved version of it. A number of D-backs front office officials, current players, alumni, and even Dominican dignitaries were in attendance. And this is the first academy in the Dominican that has a field with lights.
Yeah.
Which kind of, obviously makes a big difference, especially as far as when games can be played and when the guys can train.
Yeah. Lights are important, Derek.
They are important.
It turns out it's hard to play baseball in the dark. So
I've heard that. I don't know.
I can't speak from experience.
Yeah. I eat a lot of carrots, so I can usually see well in the dark.
Yeah. If you eat a lot of carrots and maybe you get like a glow in the dark ball and bat, like I'm not gonna say it's impossible.
Yeah, that's right. We've done worse when we were kids, but I mean, this is an amazing facility. It has new dormitories, a lounge, a barber shop, 3 full fields, batting cages, agility field, training room, weight room, classroom. So I mean, this might even be a little bit nicer than Salt River Fields than some. I mean, there's no dormitories. You can't stay the night in Salt River Fields. I'm just saying.
It definitely sounds nicer than my college campus.
For sure.
I'm happy to be an Azusa Pacific alum. But this play, the pictures and videos I've seen, oh my goodness. This is going to be, I think, an asset for the Diamondbacks. At the end of the day, how much does a facility matter to some of these amateurs? Like, I think the amount of money that you're giving these guys is probably the most important factor to decide whether they're going to sign with you. But being able to say, like, our facility is the best one or one of the best ones in the Dominican Republic, I do think that could have some sway with guys as well.
Absolutely.
So this is a significant development for the team, and they're really excited about it, and understandably so.
I just can't help when things like this come up and people wonder what the benefit is or how it could benefit the franchise. I can't help but think of Fernando Tatis Jr. literally taking out a loan where he promised future earnings to a company in order for them to provide him with things like stability and food and the ability to train and all the stuff that sometimes as a minor leaguer you don't have. Right. And as a minor leaguer in Major League Baseball, you've already been drafted and are being paid. And so that just goes to show how difficult of a life it can be when someone like Tatis needs to essentially promise a percentage of future earnings to a company in order for him to feel like he's getting the adequate funding to prepare him to be a major leaguer, right? This could make a huge difference in a lot of players' lives, especially players that are part of this organization. It's also interesting how the potential signing of Sasaki might impact any Major League Baseball team's ability to, I guess, fulfill promises to young players like this. We're going to have more about that on tomorrow's episode. Yeah. But today, we're very excited about this and what it could mean for the Diamondbacks. Like we said, we actually have some of the video from Derrick Hall and Geraldo Perdomo out there. So let's kick things off. Here's what Derrick Hall had to say about this facility.
This was an absolutely incredible day. What a ceremony, and the dignitaries that showed up, including the president of the country. It shows you just how important this is, not only to our organization, but to this entire country. And we made it known today that we wanted to have the best world-class facility in all of baseball, and I think we do now. We have the best spring training facility back at home, and we have the greatest academy now in the Dominican. We thank the Dominican for always accepting us, embracing us, and now celebrating us as we make finer young men because of this great complex.
I mean, sports are wonderful, and I know we get too focused on, the wins and losses, the championships, all of that kind of stuff, but there's something important to kind of focus on there with what Derrick Hall said, which is the importance just to the Dominican Republic that these kind of facilities are. It's not just like what it does for the players that are actually part of any of these MLB teams, franchises, and organizations. It's the hope that it gives like young kids and stuff, that they can, that access, that ability for them to make it potentially to Major League Baseball is very close for them. And that, facilities like that hopefully inspire people to more young athletes to play baseball. I've said it before. It's a terrible system Major League Baseball has in place when it comes to the minor leagues, and how some of the younger players kind of have to have second jobs and struggle until they make that major league payday, right? But in the sense of this case for young people in the Dominican Republic, I mean, it's just an opportunity at a much better life, and at least that proximity to it is very, very close to you.
Yeah, and it's not just about baseball, right? The Diamondbacks also have an education center as part of their academy. There are 3 classrooms from what we've been told in this press release. So ultimately, this isn't just about trying to facilitate a good environment for guys to develop as players, but also to set them up for success in life. I mean, the reality is that not every 16-year-old, 17-year-old who steps into your academy in the Dominican is going to step on a major league field someday. That's just not the reality. So
it's bigger than baseball.
Yeah. When these guys are 16, 17 years old, you want to make sure that you're helping them in other ways as well. And it looks like the Diamondbacks have also made that a priority.
Well, we actually will have more on this story over at gophnx.com. So if you're watching right now on television, we encourage you to join us for that conversation over here at our website. And aside from that, we appreciate you guys watching, everybody, whether you're diehard, non-diehard, television watcher, listener, viewer. We appreciate you all. But we do have Geraldo Perdomo, of course, here also from the Dominican Republic. He was there in attendance for the opening of this facility. Here's what Jerry P had to say.
My experience was kind of crazy, you know. We have a new academy here, and the way they look, it's so beautiful, it's so awesome. It was a great job. Ken, Derrick, all those guys put the effort to building this beautiful academy. They're gonna benefit in different way, like the education. They're gonna have better food, better room to sleep. I think it's impressive. When I signed in 2016. I think I don't have the opportunity to have like all this brand new facility. I sleep with like 15, 14 guys, and I think those guys are gonna have only 3 or 4. So it's very amazing job the guy and the front office and the owner been doing for us. It's very important. For me, education is first thing everything, you know, because if you don't go to the majors, you know, you got a different side to go to be a doctor or be a lawyer, you know, like it's very important for me.
Yeah, I love what he said there, and it just echoes kind of what we were talking about. It goes on beyond just the it goes on beyond. Thought we had to evacuate here. I'm no Scott Hansen. I'm not going to keep doing the show during a fire alarm. So let's just get that clear. But
I don't know if that came through on the mics, but we have a new clock in the studio, and apparently it beeps.
Apparently it does. It
reaches the 1 hour mark.
The 1 hour mark. It's news to us.
Yeah, I can't say that we sat here for an hour waiting for it to go down before we did the show.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
I will say this. Yeah. Cam has asked, has Domo been bulking? I don't know. He looked pretty big there. I don't hate that one bit at all. But yeah,
he looked like he got the barbershop. He looked like he hit the barbershop.
He probably hit up the barbershop.
He might have been the first customer.
That would be dope. Yeah, that would be dope. I need to see some video of that. But again, like what he talks about there, like he was rooming with 13 or 14 guys, you know, and this just gives, again, the ability to have some dormitories for people to have their own personal space a little bit. And again, just the education and the value that this adds to life beyond baseball. It's very important. And again, the Diamondbacks are doing a great thing. And again, it's not completely self-serving, but it is very important to the organization for them to be able to scout, you know, athletes that might have never been scouted. Maybe eyes had never gotten on them before. And now they have the ability to do so at a beautiful facility. It's going to attract a lot of young talent.
We do have some breaking news here, Derek. The decision is in. It is final. Christian Walker has rejected the Diamondbacks qualifying offer and will now officially enter free agency. This is coming from Mark Feinsand, who tweeted a few minutes ago, Nick Martinez is the only player that will accept the qualifying offer this year, per a source. So we're kind of inferring a little bit there, but that seems to be the implication.
Christian Walker is not Nick Martinez. So as far as Mark Feinsand,
it feels like a pretty safe assumption. Yeah. Given that Nick Martinez and Christian Walker are not the same person, we here at PHNX are going to say it is official.
Bold of you, Jesse. Normally, you're not usually ready to make those kind of.
I don't like to go out on a limb like that, but I feel pretty good about it in this case. So yeah, no surprises there, as we said from the top of the show.
And Cam's emoji right here just makes me realize that like I'm already laughing and smiling entirely too much about the news that essentially Christian Walker has opted out and gone to free agency. I think it's no surprise on our end. It shouldn't be a surprise to any of you Diamondbacks fans out there. At the very least, this could be a situation where it's like Lourdes, and I know Damon brought that up yesterday. We've brought it up a few times where we thought Lourdes Gurriel Jr. was gone from the franchise. It was a foregone conclusion for us last year, and then somehow the Diamondbacks ended up bringing him back. So, you know, there is the possibility here that Christian Walker goes out, test free agency, see what the market is like for himself, and maybe the Diamondbacks make some sort of crazy offer that brings him back and surprises us all, because that would be great. And if there was one guy in this franchise right now that I would suspect that would do that, it'd be Christian Walker. I feel like he was very sincere in talking about loving his time here, and that this was kind of the only major league time that he knew. Like, this is the only real team he knows. So I'm sure there's the, that fun excitement for him to see who's interested in him and what the actual offers are going to be once he's a free agent. Yeah. But you never know. Maybe the Diamondbacks find a way to bring him back. Yeah,
and I know we've talked about this before, but just to make sure everyone's on the same page here, this does have a benefit to the Diamondbacks. There's a reason they extended the qualifying offer in the first place.
Yep.
Because Walker rejected that, the Diamondbacks will receive some sort of compensation, some sort of draft pick compensation. If Walker signs elsewhere, that draft pick would be placed right after the first round if Walker signs for $50 million or more. And if he signs for below $50 million, then it would be right after the second round.
And we riot.
Yeah.
If he signs below $50 million, we break stuff.
That's fair. Yeah. That outcome seems highly unlikely, because if Walker, maybe I shouldn't go that far, but if Walker is signing for below $50 million, it feels like the Diamondbacks should probably be the team that he's signing with, in which case there wouldn't be any need for draft pick compensation. So, we expect him to sign for more than $50 million. And if he does go somewhere else, the Diamondbacks will at least get that pick in return.
Well, we briefly mentioned Yu Min Lin a little while ago. Of course, shout out to Kevin for throwing the link in the chat, but make sure to check out Jesse's wonderful piece on Yu Min Lin, because it is incredible. It's thorough, and if this is a player that is a big part of the future of the Diamondbacks franchise, you will find no place that gets you as up to date on him as a player and a person as Jesse's piece. But he did pitch one game in the Premier 12 tournament. He went 4 2/3 innings pitched, allowing 2 hits, 2 earned runs. He walked 1, 3 strikeouts, gave up 1 double. That's the only extra base hit. So again, Yu Min Lin still being fairly solid in a pretty big international tournament.
Yeah.
And continues to be one of the top pitching prospects for this team. There's a good chance we'll see him very soon.
Yeah, this game, I believe, took place at the Taipei Dome, which is very close to where the Diamondbacks first scouted him, or at least where Peter Wardell, the scout that I talked to for that story, the Diamondbacks director of international scouting, where he first saw Yu Min Lin was just a few minutes away from where Lin threw in this game in the Premier 12. And yeah, pretty good numbers, 4 2/3 innings, 2 runs, 1 walk, 3 strikeouts, nothing crazy necessarily,
right.
But you're just looking for Yu Min Lin to continue to get work in at this point, just as he was doing in the Arizona Fall League, and he certainly was able to accomplish that.
Well, we actually have more from Peter.
Yeah. Just as sort of a little teaser for the story that I wrote. I know we dropped the link in the chat. Peter was a great resource for this story. He was very heavily involved with the Diamondbacks. Originally signing Yu Min Lin. Again, he's the director of international scouting, so you can imagine he'd be pretty closely involved in this process. So I got to talk with him for a while about what the scouting process of Yu Min was like, and all the various steps that took place there. And I figured I'd share a portion of the interview that I did with him in audio form. So here is just a little snippet of what Peter Wardell had to say about Yu Min Lin.
I've talked to so many people that were at like the U18 tournaments, the U15 tournaments that were like, man, like that guy could really play. It was a kind of a classic example, and I don't want to overstate it, but like he is smaller, you know? And so I think a lot of people were like, oh yeah, he's fun to watch. Whereas like, yeah, but he might be really good, and that was definitely the stance that I took, was that like, I really believe that like this kid's athleticism, his ability to shape pitches, his compete factor, like those are all indicators to me that like, regardless of his size, like I believed that he could be a starting pitcher, that he had the functional strength and flexibility and athleticism and natural hand talent to develop into a starting pitcher. And that obviously is what steered our evaluation and ultimately our interest to sign him.
Bad Jimmy.
There you go.
I'm excited for him. And I mean, we've heard nothing but good things about him. It's like the only thing negative that you hear is that he's not very big. And I don't know if I really care about that much. I mean, we've seen some other diminutive guys have some success. I know it's not typical as a pitcher, but still.
Well,
I'm okay with it.
As a short king yourself, Derrick, right? You gotta.
Derrick is not a short king.
That's a crazy thing. I have been taking shots left and right this week. This is crazy. Right. Anthony Totri, who claims he's 5'8".
He works one wall behind us.
It's insane.
There's no way Anthony Totri
Yeah, he
is
claims
5'8".
that every time you ask him.
way.
That's exactly what he's going to tell you. But no, I'm definitely down for Lin. I think that, what we've seen of him in person, in a very small sample size, I could say. I was going to say short sample size.
You just used the word down and short like immediately after we had that conversation.
All right.
Yu Min Lin never coming on the pod.
Yeah,
you're not helping your case.
That's fair.
No, you're probably like about as average in terms of height as. I'm not. Average is not bad in this
move
context.
on.
It's the way you say things. It's not like, actually, you're average height, Derrick. You're about as average as height could possibly ever be.
Yeah.
I didn't mean it.
No one's going to ever remember you, Derrick. I just want you to know that. Like, that's what he says with that line. No, but of course, Jesse, Yu Min Lin, a great story for this team.
Yes.
And again, a team that doesn't have a lot of pitching prospects right now to be excited about. He's the guy.
Yeah. He is so incredibly easy to root for. If you check out the story, I think you will definitely feel that way. Someone who very much has made it kind of his mission to show kids back home in Taiwan, where you don't hear a ton about baseball in Taiwan necessarily, but Yu Min told me it is the most popular sport there, and there are a lot of kids in that country who are growing up.
A lot of short kings.
There are a lot of kids in that country with a dream of playing in the majors someday, and Yu Min has kind of made it his mission to pave the way for those guys. There are some Taiwanese baseball players that have made a name for themselves in the majors, but there's not that many. And you think about the biggest names, Qin-Ming Wang probably being the biggest one. He was 6'4".
Yeah,
he was not exactly
little.
Yu Min Lin's a little bit shorter than he is, and a little bit more relatable in that sense for a lot of people back in Taiwan. So it's a really inspiring story, and definitely encourage people to check it out.
And there's a connection here because the Dominican Academy that opened up, I mean, that's kind of similar for Geraldo Perdomo, where he came from, he was one of these kids that grew up and went to an academy like this or some sort of baseball facility that wasn't great, but it still helped him get on his journey and get him to where he's at now. And of course, he, is an ambassador for the Diamondbacks when it comes to this new facility in the Dominican Republic, as well as just a guy that very much wants, to be looked up to by a younger generation and hopefully inspire some of those kids to want to be Major League Baseball players. Same thing with Yu Min Lin, especially from a country that has a love for the game, but hasn't really produced as many stars as, anybody there would like to see. And he knows that he has an opportunity to be that guy, especially that guy that, like Jesse said, is a little bit more relatable when you see him versus a guy that's 6'4", or, a guy that's an amazing athlete that's a little bit more of a rarity, you know what I mean? But again, the love of baseball is worldwide. It's not just, any particular place. And baseball, Major League Baseball can have a big role in growing the game in all of these countries. It's a necessity because when you kind of look sometimes at minor league players and again, like I addressed earlier, the minor league system as a whole, it's not something I think that a lot of top athletes that play multiple sports desire to go into when they could potentially go into football or basketball as an alternative. The path to making good money and being even a mediocre player in NBA is much easier than the path that even a good baseball player has to go through in order to make it to the major leagues.
Yeah, and especially someone like Yu Min Lin, who had to travel 7,000 miles from home at the age of 18 in order to pursue this dream that he has, right? I think we often overlook the sacrifice and kind of the risk that is for these guys. I cannot imagine doing something like that when I was 18. Right. Going to college in Southern California was stressful enough for me. I didn't need to learn a new I felt like I was learning a new language,
for sure.
In some ways. But yeah, he was literally having to learn an entirely new language at that age when he came over to the U.S. So it's a really inspiring story, and I think it's a reminder that at the end of the day, these are people, right? They're not just baseball cards, stats on a baseball card. They are people with stories, and for a lot of these guys, just making the major leagues, even if they don't stay there for any length of time, is a massive accomplishment given everything that they sacrificed to get to that point. So Yu Min, of everyone in the Diamondback system, I mean, his story is one of the most inspiring for sure.
Shout out to Joe Thompson. He's absolutely right. You got to love the game. In today's day and age with how baseball is, you got to love the game in order to make it to that level, to be an elite player, to be a major leaguer. So, and we appreciate you, Rickety Bridge, very much, who is professing in the comments that he is learning baseball, and he picked up MLB The Show to learn more about baseball. Honestly, that is one of the best ways to learn about any sport.
It is.
I won't lie.
I think it's an underrated way to learn a sport.
It really
you got to play it yourself, but with baseball, that's a tricky thing to do because you kind of need a lot of people in order to play a baseball game in the park or whatnot.
Right.
MLB The Show allows you to create that universe. Just be aware that some of the managerial decisions in MLB The Show can be a little.
We'll tell you right now, if
so.
any opposing pitcher throws 140 plus innings against you in a complete game, maybe in the playoffs, that's never going to happen in real
140
life.
plus pitches.
Yeah, do I say games?
Yeah,
140
said,
plus pitches.
Innings.
Yeah, that's in a season.
I hope a game in MLB The Show doesn't go 140 innings.
Right.
That would be a brutal glitch.
Yeah, 140 pitches is what I was looking for on that answer that I blew. But that's not real life. It is life in MLB The Show world, though. So definitely enjoy, and we're happy to have you here. We hope we can help you grow your love for the game. He said he's trying to support all Arizona sports, so we appreciate it. We also appreciate the rest of you for stopping by today. We thank you guys so much for your time. You can follow us on Twitter. I'm at Cap_Caveman with a K. Jesse is at Jesse N. Friedman. Of course, large intimate Kevin Thomas is at Kev Tom Wrights. You got to figure that out once again on your own. Our show is at PHNX_DBacks, but all roads do lead to at PHNX_sports on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. We thank you guys so much for your time. Once again, we will see you tomorrow at 1 p.m. and we will have more, not only on how the Sasaki signing could impact a team's ability to sign any other international signees, but also a little bit more on this Christian Walker decision and how things are going to shake up across Major League Baseball's free agency. So come back tomorrow. We hope to see you then. In the meantime, we hope you have a wonderful evening. And remember, kids, baseball is fun, but it's so much more fun when your player accepts the qualifying offer.
We all silly like the mayor.